Hey, everybody, this is No Level Cap, and today we'll be talking about Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Yo, what's good, people? We're back with the No Level Cap podcast. I'm your host, Sage Ashford, with my co-hosts, Rakeem Beck, Devin Butts, Will Coleman, Terrence Flowers. Like we said, we are getting into this 1984 classic, Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Man, this is my second. No, it's my third Miyazaki film. I haven't really, but I watched this morning. Like I just woke up and was like, all right, let's go ahead and get to it. Quite the film. Quite the film. I didn't know what to expect going into it. I kind of reminds me of it's like a better version of. Nah, I'm not gonna make that comparison because people might be like, even making the comparison might piss people off, so I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, I just want to see what y'all thought of it when we gonna hop into it. All right, Will, what did you think of the film, man?
So this is my first time ever sitting down watching the film. I've always known of the film because being a weeb comes with the territory. You're gonna know about things on the outer rim of the stuff you like. And I ended up watching this because it was my homework, but I did watch this after our stream last night, so I ain't gonna bullshit you. I kind of fell asleep and then woke back up, then watched the rest, went back and rewatched the rest of what I watched and watched it on to the end. I have to say that for a movie from 1984, this looks good. This moves well. I love the art direction. I love a lot about this movie. And I will state this: I watched it dubbed, and then I had to research because I was like, this movie has seen quite a few re-releases, and it does have two different crews behind it. So I'm like, oh, I don't know which one I got because, well, I don't necessarily have in
You got the one with Patrick Stewart or the one without him?
That's a problem.
That is a very obviously Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I was like, wait, this sounds like who I think this is. So
it's Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf is also
Uma Thurman,
young Shia LaBeouf.
Uma Thurman.
Which it makes sense within that time frame. This is the Kill Bill era, so
yeah. Oh yeah.
Very true, yeah. So I ended up finding the movie, watching it that way. I watched it dubbed, and it's something. I ain't gonna sit here and like deny that this movie isn't great. I gotta say that now. But it definitely kind of flew over what I thought it was gonna be because I didn't know much about the movie. With the action and whatnot within the movie, that's what really threw me. I'm just like, whoa. I didn't know Nausicaa was gonna get down like this. I didn't expect the hands. I didn't expect the action to be like this early on, especially when she flew into that rage and just started just beating everybody's ass with the random weapons. When she did that, I was like, you get down like this in this movie? I thought this was gonna be like kind of like more like a smooth sailing kind of ride. I didn't think you was gonna be in here. I didn't know you was gonna be a warrior all of a sudden, for real. But that's not the here nor there. I do like I said, I love the art. I love like the direction of everything. The dub it's there. I like it. I like it somewhat, and it did get better somewhere towards like the latter half of the movie. And there is the OST, I think is really interesting to me because I paid that a lot of attention. And it felt like it wasn't out of place, but it definitely felt like it fit more into a video game a couple times because I was just like, man, this felt like an aviation type game. Like I would hear this in Ace Combat or something, or like in a different arcade game. I'm like, yo, this music good, but it felt like it belongs somewhere else too. Like
I thought you were talking about like the children like singing kind of thing, or like child singing. There was like maybe part. 2 or 3 parts where that happened.
You talking about whenever they do the flashbacks and shit?
Yeah,
dream sequences.
Yeah,
the like 3, I think. Okay, yeah, the dream sequences. Those parts, those are like those are fitting in their own little way. Even though a lot of times I associate children singing with being like creepy because usually that leads to something spooky happening later on. But yeah, some of those other scenes, like where things are like happening in the present, those felt like so completely like different from where they should belong. Those songs felt completely different to me. To end my review of the movie, I thought it was definitely a great movie. I would definitely consider watching it again, and I maybe would find my own copy of it because, like I said, this this game. This movie has like numerous like different releases, so I'm looking to get at least the most latest release of it. I'll get this movie like a good 8.5. I'm with it. I'm with this movie. I'm with it.
Okay. Devin, what you think, man?
As most of you all have already said, this is my first time watching this movie. Going into it, like Will, I wasn't sure what to expect. I saw someone like when you watch a movie like on a streaming service, it'll kind of show you some of the movie playing, some of the clips. I was like, this is like some stuff. I'm seeing some action, like Will said. I'm like, that's not what I was expecting. But I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. This movie, it took me back to like being a kid because oddly enough, Will just mentioned gaming, and this movie literally was an RPG for me. Like it's in movie form. Like the music, I made a list of things this reminded me of while watching this movie, or things that like could have possibly it inspired possibly later down the line. Final Fantasy VII, like the music, like that was one piece of music that sounded almost like the bombing mission music. There was a piece of music that sounded like when they were going up the steps with she was going up steps with Asbel, and it was like a very like what's the word, muted soundtrack. It reminded me of when Sephiroth, his music when he comes up and it's like that doot doot. You hear that like heartbeat. I'm like, that sounds almost like that. Even those bird creatures, they like chocobos.
Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only person that thought that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I see it now. I didn't think none of it till now.
I was like, those are like chocobos. The Last of Us, like this they call it the toxic jungle with spores and these creatures. The same thing with the the cordyceps from Last of Us. Monster Hunter is kind of like the environment, them riding on those animals, these big creatures. They're not really fighting them in the same way, but Steel Stars, like some of the environments and stuff. Desert Punk, a little bit of Zelda, some action. Jack and Daxter, a little creature on your side you're running with. It reminded me of so much stuff. Like the animation, like Lunar, Grandia reminded me a little bit of that. I'm like, man, this is taking me back to so much of my childhood. Like, I hate that I didn't watch this when I was younger. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie. The main character, boy, she is
she's something.
I did not think, I thought she is a mellow character, but man, she is very matter of fact. And I actually like that. Like she was about saving the environment, being kind to these creatures, which is kind of a weird like juxtaposition, because it's like these creatures have the potential to destroy the world and everything that's going on, but she's so kind and gentle to them. Like the scene with the baby, she like got stabbed in the shoulder, shot in the shoulder, shot in the foot, and she got pushed in the ass, and she's like, "Nah, I'm still going." Then got just football ran over by the freaking own.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, that scene took me out because I totally thought that it was just gonna be the usual, like the creatures stop and everything's
I thought they were gonna run around her or something like that.
Bulldoze her right.
And you know what that reminded me of? I was like, "This is Lion King." Like that's literally the same Lion King. She got knocked up and fell right back down into him. I'm like, dang. Like, yo, that's probably the funniest scene in the movie. One of the funniest scenes. But yeah, this movie, I enjoyed it pretty much all the way through. I will say I agree with Terrence. I kind of wish this was like a series that was spread out, because the thing that kind of disappointed me the most was like the ending. The giant. I'm waiting this whole time for like this thing to be like, by the end of the movie, it's gonna be fully realized. And this thing, as I made a joke with King, because I made a joke this whole movie, like this IP got some explaining to do. This IP got some explaining to do. The little thing on her shoulder, I'm like, that look real similar to an Eevee evolution, to electric Eevee evolution. Look real similar. And then Bower Broly came out. I'm like, Bower Broly got some explaining to do. I was like, hold on now. Attack on Titan got some explaining to do. We got the rumbling going on. We got big Titans. Like, what's going on here? But yeah, it's that's the one thing that I kind of didn't like. Is like he came out, he shot like 3 Piccolo mouth beans and was like, "Ooh, I ain't got no regrets." Like, what? But I guess it makes sense because these things they were like alive so long ago, and those things are huge. So I guess it's gonna take a long time for that thing to like fully come back to life. But I was like, dang, that's it. They just come out and shoot mouth beam. That's it. I was really hoping for something with that more. So I agree with Terrence. If they gave it a chance to spread out, maybe something like that, they could explain more why those things came out. because I think that purpose was like to incinerate the world or something like that, whatever. But I think overall I enjoyed this movie, man. It was good action, some heartfelt moments. It was a good movie experience all around for me. I give it an 8. Like I said, just so some of those things that they like, I wish they had more time to dive into later on in the movie. But other than that, I enjoyed it, man. Really did.
Okay. You got an 8 and 8.5. Rakeem, what did you think of the film?
Man, I thought the film was really good. The first thing that caught me with this film was when I first watched it, the environment really took you in. Like, you was like, whoa, this is not normal Earth. This is very different. The plant life and the forest and the juxtaposition with the desert, the designs of everything was very weird and like wide, and things look like wings, everything like wings, long and perpendicular kind of. It reminded me kind of like Star Wars a little bit in some regards, or Desert Punk to some degree.
Also, they had no aim too, so that's also accurate.
Well, yeah, they definitely had no aim at that point. So I saw, ooh, Nausicaa gone. I'm sorry.
Could have been.
But it took me in, and like you guys said, it's a very slow burn in the beginning. They do a lot of world building and kind of understanding of. I do like when I watch stories and you kind of have an understanding of the world, but from the perspective of the characters and how they view what's going on in the world, and like how they frame their religion and how to frame their beliefs and where they live regionally. And then, like, for instance, Nausicaa and her people, they had like a shamanistic society, and they believed in like certain legends and stuff like that, but they also kept to themselves and like respected the environment to a certain extent. They believed in, like, only going to certain limits with things and like kind of existing and cohabitating with the creatures and stuff to a degree. But as a whole, I felt like the themes of this movie were really strong. And I noticed it in Nausicaa. And the theme to me of this story is mankind keeps repeating the same mistakes. When I see Nausicaa as a character, it's like being the smartest person in the room, knowing you're the smartest person in the room, and nobody else gets it. Because she just had to repeatedly take over so many situations and like, hey, you guys are idiots. She didn't say it, but basically, hey, I know what to do in this situation because I actually have taken the time to get an understanding of these creatures and the wildlife and how to build and what's really going on here. And you own some mystical BS you don't really understand, and you try and take over. Let me handle this situation. It felt like the opposite of useless. She was super useful in like every situation she was in. And you could kind of feel her frustration too with like, the big thing was like her trying to keep the peace with the insect species and the mankind in a lot of instances, because everyone kind of want to go straight to violence because of their fear and misunderstanding of each other. And she knew that like all that was going to do was just anger the earth, anger these species, and cause them to attack. Another allegory too was like the red giant monster, and like how it incinerated the earth. That to me is just like, that's kind of like nuclear war, like a warhead, and like how we use these powerful weapons that destroy the earth, and then one being dormant is like a nuke being dormant, and you got to use it again. They're like not learning from the mistake you did the first time. This doesn't work. So it was kind of cool at the end, like Devin talked about, when the creature showed up and it didn't work. That was like, hey, the earth has had enough of your shenanigans. No more of this. You've already destroyed the world, this thing before. You ain't finna do it no more. You've done enough. But yeah, overall, I've really liked the film. I like themes of like the environmentalism, like you guys talked about, having a better understanding of the world. Like, what really blew me away was like that scene when Nausicaa went down in that secret room. And then you notice that she had been building those plants up. And dude was like, yo, you got plants here. These things poisonous? No. I figured out that, like, if you grow them in natural water, they just grow. We just poisoned the earth, and that's why what happened. Like, I'm like, bro, this is a huge finding. This is like, you like have an understanding of this shit that no one else has. You might want to tell everybody. This is kind of a big deal.
You bring up a good point that was kind of just glossed over.
Yeah, it was. It was just like, yeah, I just did this and it worked out.
I mean, nobody would have listened, so
no.
Girl, that was a whole ass scientist.
She is a scientist. Yeah, that's why I said she's kind of the smartest person in the room. But that was also true Sage. Of like, every time she tried to reason with people and try to like get them to understand this is not going to work. This killing and shooting and taking over stuff is not going to work. They just gloss over it. I mean, you can see that even today, people just don't care. Yeah. Even if you have the science to back it up, you have the knowledge. She had firsthand knowledge. She dealt with the species before. She knew how to calm them down when everybody else would freak out. That was the only part that started pissing me off. Was like, bro, like she keeps telling you to stop doing this because she's seen this firsthand multiple times and nobody's listening. Another part of this film I liked also was like that juxtaposition of the different cultures and how they perceive how they should handle situations. Like her people had this understanding of the world, and then you have this evil empire come through, and they're like, "Hey man, we finna take up all these other countries and like burn all the forests down, and we're gonna do it peacefully after we murder your father." And I was like, "Yo, you just rolled up in that kingdom, killed her father, and then like, all right, we want peace."
They ain't waste no time either. They ain't
when I tell you. She crashed out, bro. She went from a princess of peace to Fist of the North Star in like 5 minutes, bro. She wrecked them dudes, bro.
Came in there, killed all them dudes.
And that also was cool to me because like he was very much a pacifist throughout this movie, and you saw that one glimpse of her really getting angry. Oh, I can kill y'all. I know how to fight. I know what to do. And she even freaked out about what she did. Like she didn't even expect that out of herself, because that's not who she is as a person. I enjoyed a lot of aspects of this film. There was a sense of adventure to the film too. When they got captured and was going to this other country and shot out the air. The air fights are really dope. The ship fights and the gun shooting.
One thing
and shit.
I'm gonna say is I don't know why them big ships were around, because every time you had a smaller ship, it just wrecked shop. I mean, like
cargo planes.
You shouldn't even have the capacity to take these big ass ships down. Like your gun shouldn't be powerful enough. But that was a lie, because Astel just rolled through and took out like 4 ships on his own with no help. I'm like, what the fuck going on, man?
Man, it was, when I was watching, I guess they must be cargo ships to hold smaller ships, because they're useless otherwise, because they're getting destroyed. Even they said it's like, man, why are we in this formation? Like, we about to get attacked. And I was like, oh, they don't have any way to defend themselves. That's why they're in that formation.
And they got attacked, and it wasn't nothing they could do. They was just losing. I'm like, all right,
He can't turn. I'm just like, oh my God, it's
man. Yeah, some of the air fights are really cool, like the airship stuff. There's a lot of that in this movie. I remember that one when they were in the clouds and the villains turned their ship upside down and landed on the smaller ship. I called it the F dude, the F maneuver. The fuck could maneuver. They just boarded them. The scene where was it Mito? What's the old man's name? Was it Mito?
Yupa?
Yupa. Yes.
Okay.
The swordsman.
Man, when he showed up in the back of that ship, it was like Darth Vader in Rogue One, bro. It was up for them dudes. That was so cool. Yeah, that was dope. But yeah, overall, I liked the film a lot. It was a slow burn in the beginning. I think once that plane crashed and that girl said, "Did the cargo burn?" Oh, thank God. That's when the movie picked up, like right after that scene. Like,
I agree.
The rest of the movie was just a breeze. It was way better paced. I think the beginning was just kind of to set the world and get an understanding of it, and really to show off the environment. They knew what they were doing with their art. Their art was beautiful. They knew what they were doing. But yeah, after that, it was really good pace. They got to it. A lot of things were explained. But I enjoyed the film a lot. I would probably give it like an 8.5 myself, maybe a 9. I quite enjoyed this film. I thought I enjoyed it from beginning to end.
Okay. Terrence, let's run this back.
Yeah, since I'm going to edit this, for those that don't know, had a part where I gave my review and my mic was off. So yeah, we're running this back.
It's all good, bro.
Anyway, yeah, like everyone has said, I quite enjoyed this film, and I do agree that in the first half of it, it was a bit of a slow burn. Like, slow burn is the word that I would use for it, is that there was a lot of like world building and lore that was being established with how the earth came to be, why these insects are roaming around, why there's toxin in the air, etc. Yeah, the art, the animation, it's all great even by today's standards. Yeah, it's proof why 2D animation shouldn't go anywhere. Like 2D and 3D should be able to coexist. I'll say that one thing that this film is really good for, and just Miyazaki overall is just really good for, is his female characters. Like this cast was like has some really good female characters. Not even just Nausicaa herself, but you had the queen, which I wish we could have maybe seen a little bit more of her outside of like her being kind of a bit of a tyrant in the beginning and then kind of softening up toward the end. But you know, it is what it is.
That line she said was crazy.
What?
When she took her hand off.
Oh,
She's like, if I'm whatever man's looking up to marry me, he'll see even worse. I'm like, my God. Then I saw, oh, she has no lower half. Oh, that's what she's talking about.
yeah, but yeah, even just the scene that I found actually to be really cool was when all the women of the essentially, like, I'm gonna call them tribes, but I mean there were different groups, factions across the area. I'll just call them tribes. Like this different tribe. That when Nausicaa was aboard their ship.
Oh, the women in the Pajite tribe.
Yeah, the Pajite tribe. Yeah, how they came in and they saved her, and when they brought her into the other wing, how all the women from that tribe were there, and how they were supportive of Nausicaa getting out and warning her people. And I just thought that was just like a really cool moment, like just the fact that, you know, all the dudes are kind of like gung-ho about like, yeah, lock her up and everything. We're going to, you know, yeah, she's not going to go back to tell her people or anything like that. But all the women were kind of like, no, this isn't right. Let's let her go, warn her people. And yeah, it's just a way of making an atonement for, we're sorry that all this had to happen to you, you know, that your dad died and just everything is just bad. It's just happening. Yeah, Nausicaa is a really cool character. I will admit that in the beginning, it seemed like she was like the only smart one and everybody else was kind of like dumbed down in intelligence. She's kind of like, she reminds me of a Disney princess in that regard. Like,
that's a good analogy. Cause, and I mean, like at first I was letting it slide, but there comes a time, like specifically the part when they in the Sea of Decay. And like they confront the Ohm, and the Ohm was just staring at it, and all of a sudden the Ohm just wrapped all them spaghetti tentacles around her, and then you just say that's when you get the first flashback, and it's just like, you should be dead. Like this right here should be the end of you. But no, he just saw the inner purity in her and let her go. I'm like, okay, now you a Disney princess.
Yeah.
What's up, Keen?
I was watching a movie last night with my roommate Tyler. And we were watching. It's like, man, this chick is Lisa Al-Gaib, ain't it? But useful.
I mean, she is.
But useful.
So there's that stuck in my head as I was watching this film, and I was like, no, these two films should not be compared.
They shouldn't be. It's not the same idea, but it's
not the same theme that they're going for. Because like with Dune is telling you the dangers of a savior, and like even that guy, that character, like there's a reason why he's not the way that he is, because like he's not meant to be a savior. Like this character is the savior trope played as straight as possible.
It is, but that's why that was the joke. That was the joke though, because it was like in their perspective, like she actually is their savior. Like she literally is.
Yeah, it's funny.
Go ahead, my bad.
No, you're totally fine. It is funny that I mentioned the Disney princess thing, because this was kind of around that era, like the Disney Renaissance. Well, the Disney Renaissance started maybe a little bit later. I think it technically starts with Little Mermaid.
The Disney princess movies going back to like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, huh?
Yeah, but I guess I mean, I'm specifically talking about like the Disney Renaissance era when like princesses
like the 90s.
started. Yeah, exactly. I think it started with Little Mermaid, which was like 88, 89, whatever. But yeah, it's like how she's very in tune with nature, how she's like very different from everybody else. She's like quirky, but that's what makes her like the star of the show, essentially, is like because she knows things that other people don't know. She's able to make things happen that they can't. But yeah, overall, like I really enjoyed this film. It's one of those things where environmental messages are like old as time. Like people act like that's something new. Like this film nowadays would probably be called woke, because it's like, oh, you're talking about climate change and everything. It's like, no, I mean,
not just the climate change, just the fact that she was so useful in every scenario. People would lose their fucking minds if they saw Nausicaa doing all that shit.
No, it's not how it works. She shouldn't be doing all of this.
Man, they'd be livid.
Yeah, but I mean, this just goes to show that we've had movies and like series media about pretty much the earth being returning to its, like the earth being returned to itself, essentially, you know, trying to go past man, or like man having to evolve with the earth, etc. But yeah, I really enjoy this. About like with you all, I'd give it a very solid 8. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a film that I'm glad that we all got a chance to watch, and I'm kind of like you, Devin. It's unfortunate that I didn't watch this like years earlier, but you know, here we are.
They kept playing Princess Mononoke all day.
You know, that is the
Which I
one
do
that was
love.
played a lot. Like, I don't
Yeah.
recall this one being played as much on TV as like Mononoke was, or even Spirited Away, of course.
I've never really I don't really I wasn't a Miyazaki guy growing up. Like the style just didn't fit me. Even watching this film, it didn't I don't know how to put this. Well, I do know how to put this. It didn't feel like an anime. Like when I was watching, I'm like, man, this just doesn't feel like an anime. And the reason why it doesn't feel like an anime is because Japan did a lot of animation for America back in the 80s. And so, like, what I perceived to be American animation was always just Japanese animation. Like, if you go back, even stuff like Thundercats and Transformers, all of that stuff was animated by Japanese studios and then just brought to America. And so when I watched this, I was like, man, this just don't feel like an anime. And it's like, nah, it's an anime. You just need to rechange what you thought American animation looked like. But yeah, this film does have a ton of like really strong environmentalist themes. Nausicaa in particular, her thing isn't as it's both about environmentalism, but it's also about her consistently making the choice to choose to be compassionate and to choose to be nonviolent. And like there's that one moment where she does burst out, like when they when the what is it, the Tolmekian army, they walked in there and for whatever reason just killed this old man. I'm like, man, like they ain't talking out or nothing. Like he had the weapon. They could have been like, we could talk
I'm gonna
this
give him
out.
credit though. He was ready to die for it.
And I mean, I guess you could say that's why they killed him, because he had the weapon out. But it's like, brother, like he's an old man in a bed. In fact, that's when the people almost like revolted when they heard that. It was like, you killed an old man in his bed. He was helpless. Like, but Nausicaa comes out and like, you know, kills like 5 of them and really doesn't think about it until later. And she's like, I'm scared, not just for them, but I'm scared of what I might do myself. And it just reminds you that like there's, at least in this universe, there's almost no such thing as evil. It's like a choice that you make. And it's a choice to be like whether I'm going to be compassionate or whether I'm going to be like revenge filled and just go after people, because that's really what came down to like the Pajit tribe and the Tolmekian tribe. It was just they had been fighting for so long. That was all they understood was like, okay, I got to wipe them out because they trying to wipe me out. And she was constantly making the choice to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. And there's a scene early on that tells you what type of character she is at the very beginning of the movie when she meets the fox squirrel. And the fox squirrel is like really angry and growling and threatening. And she's like, you're just afraid. And I'm not going to let you be afraid. And then she just holds her finger out and lets it bite her. And that tells you like she's willing to be hurt if it means creating some level of peace between her and the environment and like not just like the plants, but like the animals, the flora and fauna of the world around her. She's willing to harm herself for that. And that shows you very early on, like this is the kind of character that Nausicaa is. She's going to be that through the whole movie. And that was a really cool moment. The moment that like there's a lot of like really cool moments. I'm not like this idea is kind of old. Like, okay, technology kind of hold us, and so it's going to destroy the earth, and then eventually we're just going to have to return to an agrarian society. Like if you notice, like the people in the valley are the only ones trying to live happily because they're the only ones trying to live peacefully with nature. Like the Pajit tribe, they didn't learn shit. I got a little confused. I'm not gonna say that I didn't pay attention, but I feel like I was just a little confused. I think the Pajit destroyed their own city to wipe out the Tolmekian people because the Tolmekians had like attacked them and shit.
I think you're right because
think that's what
Asbel was mad about that, right?
Yeah, he was like, "What the hell?"
Insects
They
there.
lured them
Yeah.
there.
Right? They lured them to their own city and just let that city just get wrecked because they was like, "Hey, man." It looked like the Tolmekians were basically just gonna win the war.
Yeah, because they said they would just build another one.
Yeah. They was like, we'll just build another city. So like they sacrificed their own city to try to wipe out the Tolmekians, and it's just like, no, the Valley people were just like, hey man, this not it. Like you can't. All
Y'all
this
lost
shit you
the
trying
plot.
to do is you lost the plot. And one of the things I thought about towards the end of the movie was like, man, like for all y'all know, y'all are the only humans alive. Like you don't have like the technology to contact people, you know, in other parts of the world. So like y'all still fighting. Like it ain't that many of y'all. And so many people died. I'm like, my God, like y'all could be the last humans and y'all still fighting over fucking nothing. Like this shit gotta stop. Like the valley was plenty big for y'all to all live in and just be chill, but that's not what you wanted. They still wanted to keep fighting. And like that's why you needed somebody like Nausicaa to be like, all right, y'all chill out. And I like Nausicaa for the most part. I do think they went a little too deep on the Disney princess shit by the end. But there is something that she had that other people didn't have, just the innate understanding. Well, no, I won't even say only her had it. She understood deeper than anyone else, even though her whole society understood. Like, hey, man, we got to work with nature. Like, humanity tried fighting nature for years, and that's over with. And like, even the old woman, that's why I say, like, it wasn't just Nausicaa. The old woman also understood, because like they were like, we gonna burn down the Sea of Decay, and she was like, nah, y'all tried that. Like, humanity has tried this before. And every time you try to burn or harm the Sea of Decay, what happens is the Ohm come out, angry as fuck, and they destroy that society completely and utterly. They don't stop. They don't go back to the sea, because apparently the sea was how they got their food and like continue to exist. And it was like they rather just stay out and rage until they die. And then when they die, they spread more spores and make the Sea of Decay even wider. So like, this shit does not work. Give up your plan. And I think it was Princess Kushana. I think that's her name.
Yeah.
The princess of the Tomekian people. She was like, I'm not trying to hear none of that. This old chick don't know what the fuck she talking about. It's like, all right. This is the lesson there. Is like, this is why you have history. If you don't pay attention to history, I mean, you just gonna repeat it. Oh, what's up, Terrence?
One thing that if any of you remember exactly what was said, you can say it. I think it was the old woman who said something along the lines of, because when they were thinking about doing the fires, is that a fire can last for a brief period of time, but the things that it destroys will take hundreds of years to come back. Something along those lines. Something about how
that
the
wasn't
water.
the old woman. I think, if I remember, it was the guys. Yeah.
Okay.
It was the guys that were saying that. They was like, yeah, you know, we use the fire too, but we don't overuse it.
That's what it was.
The fire can destroy everything. And like, you know, it takes hundreds of years to restore that shit.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Okay, thank you for
real life.
you. Yeah, that
it is. And
I mean, we're seeing that this year, so yeah.
He ain't never lied. So it was just like like those people just understood innately, like, this is how you live. And that was why early on when and one thing I'll push back on a little bit is that Nausicaa didn't really, even though she was often the smartest person in the room, she didn't act like she was the smartest person. She just did whatever was necessary in the moment, because she also tended to believe like all the stuff that the people in the valley believe. She just took it a little deeper. And so there's one part at the beginning of the film where she's chilling out with like the old woman and her dad and the swordsman Yupa. And the old woman says, oh yeah, you know, Yupa still believes in this legend. Descending onto a golden field to join bonds with the great earth and guide the people to the pure land and yada yada. And she's like, and I'm sitting there like, I looked at the valley, and by this point they'd already done all these sweeping establishing shots showing you how fucked up the Sea of Decay is, showing you all the desert areas and all this other shit. And I'm like, wow, all that stuff is fucked up. And Yupa had already told you that the Sea of Decay is continuing to grow and taking over other countries. And then you see this like pure and pristine valley that's just like all grass everywhere and forests and happy people living out their little, you know, villager lives and shit like that. And I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you, sad as it sounds, like, this is probably the best you're gonna get. Like, you living in this valley, that's it. Like, you already got what you're gonna get. And it turns out by you get to the end of the film, like, that's exactly what it is. Like, you've gotten, like, all it is her saving you from the Ohm and leading you back into the valley. That's the Pure Land. Like, you've already gotten it. And so, like, I was like, well, that's kind of a surprise. Oh, and then as far as, like, the giant warrior, he got up and started wrecking shit. That they pushed back on that, too, which is why it was good that the giant warrior died pretty quickly, because the old woman talked about that, too. She was like, yeah, it needed to go. The Ohm's rage is the fury of the earth itself. And there's no reason to live if our lives have to depend on a monster, because those things probably are a large part of the reason why the planet is fucked up. And then when you look at it, I know it's not fully formed yet, but like, whatever that shit was an abomination. Yeah. Whatever, like, that shit reminded me low key of Horizon a little bit. Of like,
this whole film gave me Horizon vibes.
Very
or like
Horizon
Horizon is inspired probably by this. So yeah.
Absolutely. Because I'm sitting there like, whatever y'all created to, like, whatever technology you employed to create this, bitch, why? Like, what the fuck? Like, you should have took one look at the plans, not even the full thing, the plans of them giant warriors, and been like, I don't like this. We shouldn't have these. Because, like, it was like, I know it wasn't fully formed yet, but it was still just disgusting, and just it existed to lay waste to shit. I'm like, why the fuck would, and it was sentient. I'm like, why the fuck would you make this? What the fuck was the point? And like, the earth apparently just won out, because all those things eventually just turned to stone, just died. It's like, all right, well, that's it for y'all. and the Earth continued on, and the Earth knew what it was doing. Like, even though humanity was like kind of getting hoed by the expanding Sea of Decay, it was all for a purpose. Because when you got to the bottom of the Sea of Decay, if you got underneath, they found the underground of it. It's like, oh yeah, this is pure. It's just that it's purifying the soil. It is fixing all of humanity's mistakes, which just went back to like hey, we just got to learn to live with this shit. And like the idea of like, if humanity can just hold on and not be like on some fuck shit, eventually the Earth will completely heal. But it's over. Like, it's almost like humanity had its chance to like figure out like, oh, okay, well, we'll just get along with the Earth. Now the Earth's like, look, I'm finna fix myself, and you can either get along, you can get down or lay down. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
The OM were just like, we're not gonna let you burn the sea up because the sea is the only thing fixing shit. And so that's it. Like, we not going no more. And so like, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, overall the film very solid. Not one of my favorite films ever, but still very good. I would give it an 8. Strong 8 out of 10. I did listen in the sub, so I mean, like, the only reason I knew Patrick Stewart was like one of the voice actors, so I looked it up on Wikipedia. I was like, wow, what a voice cast.
Yeah,
Man, what a voice cast. I was like, wow, this is interesting.
Yeah, it was like, what a cast, man. One thing I will note is that, man, society fell pretty far too, because apparently at one point society knew how to go to space.
Yep.
And like reliably at that, because they had like a spaceship, and it was just like, yeah, our guns can't harm that thing. Actually, we can bury it, but like we don't know what to do with it. Like, we couldn't actually fight it. And so it's like, man, y'all fell pretty far. And so once again, it's just like Horizon, because like I think at Horizon 2, they tried to go to space, or like they let you know humanity at one point went to space. Oh, what's up, Terrence?
It definitely makes me wonder like how far the manga goes, like what other lore and world building is established that isn't addressed in this movie, because this movie only touches on maybe like the first 2 volumes or something like that. Yeah, and and this series went on for quite a while, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah,
about a decade, I think.
Yeah, so
10 years.
Yeah, something
really?
like that.
Oh wow.
Wikipedia does have some spoilers. I won't get into heavy spoilers on here in case people want to look it up for themselves.
Yeah.
Try to read it. But Wikipedia does have some spoilers. It does expand on the world a little bit, and the Horizon influences run deeper than you think. So that's just something to think about if you want to, check out the manga. I did find that to be interesting, because I was like Terrence a little bit, because I was like, dang, I kind of think that this world, you could expand on it and add more to it. But then, like, also by the end of the film, I was like, nah, we kind of wrapped up all the plot threads that you need to wrap up, really. The only thing to see is, like, how far back can humanity, like, crawl from where it fell? That's the only thing left to see, because, like, by the end of it, the Tolmekian people, they go back home, and, like, man, I don't know where they was getting all them ships from, because they kept blowing them up, and they just kept showing up with new ones. Like, dang, because when they left, I thought it was just going to be, like, one ship, and they flew back, and it was just like the remnants of their people. No, it was like 5, 6, 7 ships. I'm like, oh, y'all just won, really. Like, low key, like, y'all would have won. Because, like,
they would have.
The Pajite people, they didn't have nothing left. They had destroyed their own city. Everybody was basically living in that damn one ship. That was the last people left. This is like living in that one ship. And then, like, the Tolmekian killed some of them. So I'm like, yeah, they just effectively won. So I mean, like, congratulations there. So that took out one plot point, because I'm like, okay, the people in the valley, they don't want to do nothing. They just want to live in the valley and just be left alone. The Bajit people, they basically wiped out, and I think it was implied that they just stayed in the valley afterwards. And so all you have left,
that would make sense.
It would, because like their own city is fucked. And so all you got left is like the Tolmekian people, and then they lost their only weapon, and they kind of, you would hope they kind of learned their lesson, that they kind of figured out, like, okay, well, we can't keep fighting like this. Who knows? Because, like, that seemed to be the lesson there, like, whether or not humanity is capable of learning the lesson of, like, chilling the fuck out. But yeah, like, you would hope that they learned their lesson and they went back home. So it was like, all right, well, what's left really, like, other than to see if they could actually, like, fix the Sea of Decay entirely? But, like, I don't need that ending. So, I mean, like, yeah, I by the end of it, I kind of agreed. Like, I wanted more world building. And I would check out the manga just to see a little bit more of it. But other than that, it's like, all right,
I think
But
this
yeah,
functions
this-
well as like a self-contained story. Like this
It
works
does.
for what it is, and it's like if you want more, then yeah, the manga is there.
Yeah, go get the manga. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the other thing I would say is that, like it is not surprising that off the strength of this film, Studio Ghibli was created. More than that, this is basically where one of the most famous anime directors of all time, Hideaki Anno, that's where he cut his teeth animating this.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, well, within a decade, he went from this to making Neon Genesis Evangelion. And so it's like, holy crap. Like, no wonder this is such a massive success.
Yeah.
I will say I was
those
also
giants look kind of familiar. Like now you said it kind of remind me of like the angels a bit.
yeah.
Like even like design of them, the
Yeah.
shape.
I agree. I think that maybe he was a little inspired by it and messed with, Mecha a little bit, just like, oh, I'm gonna merge this and create something altogether weird and new. And that, Evangelion would go on to inspire a whole generation of anime creators, and like weird places too, because like for years there were anime that were basically just trying to ape Evangelion. So it just reminds you that like every creation you see is like a response or like part of the conversation of a previous creation. And so I thought, and that's really cool. I will say I looked and saw something that apparently not the only people, like Ty was not the only person that thought that this was kind of related to Dune. And I'm like, man, kind of, but only in the loosest sense. Because
Yeah.
like the goal here.
Sand.
Yeah,
and
I
Savior.
mean,
that's it.
yeah, that's it. I'm like, one of these is playing the trope straight, and the other one is like subverting and deconstructing the fuck out of it. So like,
That's
I don't
true.
know. Like, it would
It
have
ain't
never
a
entered.
1-to-1. It ain't a 1-to-1. No.
It ain't. And I'm just thinking because like apparently like hella critics thought that, and I'm like, man, it would have never entered my mind.
I think it's because the way her subjects treated her. They really, really liked her, which when you watch the movie made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, and that was the kind of thing that they were trying. That what's my man's name? Frank, whatever, like the dude that wrote Dune. That was the kind of thing that Frank was warning you against, like Frank Herbert. That he was like, hey man, saviors don't come and aren't like just the purest and most innocent people ever. Which in this movie, she was. She was just pure and more innocent than everybody else around. I thought that was like, I'm like, okay, I guess it was cool to a point. But like when she, I like the part where she's basically sacrificed her leg to like the acid sea. I was
That
like,
was
okay,
cool.
well that kind of, I fucked with that. But like
The scene
parts
she
with-
got yeeted, boy. Oh my God. I ain't gonna lie. I thought this ending in this movie was about to be very different. I'm like, is this how we ended the movie? Oh my God. What a lesson.
they could have gone much darker. I agree.
Man.
The sacrifice.
We could have gotten a film where like she died sacrificing herself, and then everybody was just out of respect, just kind of broke off the war and cut all that shit out. We could have got that film. They was like, all right, look, we ain't trying to get that damn
We
depressing.
ain't doing that. We ain't that depressed.
Chill the fuck out. Cause man, she just went.
That was terrifying. And the baby. I was like, me too. I one of y'all. Dang.
We mad now. We don't care. I just want, the only thing I really would want to know now is like how powerful are these fucking Ohm, because they brought her back to life. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Leave them alone. That's the lesson.
Exactly.
Because everything in it,
Let
they
that
went back to their
child
crib.
alone.
They said they went back to their crib and said, "Don't fuck." Because remember, the entire forest came out for one baby. One.
Yeah. In fact, actually, they did a precursor to that. Like,
Oh,
if
they
you'll
did?
remember, when the plane crashed,
Yep.
and like there was that one insect, and they was like, "Oh, don't kill it, don't kill it.
Mm.
It's strong enough to make it back. Let's just take it back." And so she took it back, and then like as she's flying out, you see that
Mhm.
one Ohm. It was like on its
Looking out
way
like-
to try to pick up that fucking child. So it's like, what did you say, Terrence?
That was hilarious.
Would you say, Terrence? Let that child alone.
Oh, yeah, let that child
Let that
alone.
child alone.
Hey,
Dawn was just like,
as Big Green
"Aight."
said, let that child alone.
Let that child alone.
The monster was out there like, all right, it's back. All right, I was about to. All right.
It's like so much of this film is about like human hubris, because it's like once you see something that gigantic that you can't harm with any of your weapons, and every other weapon that could harm it basically wreck the planet. It's like, all right, well, that's it. We're not fighting them. We just got to figure out how to live around them. And then I guess the only thing I want to bring up before we wrap it up is there's a part where the Valley people were like, looking at the oncoming Ohm, and they were like, "Hey, man, you know, if it's our time, oh well."
It's our time.
Yeah.
Like, damn,
This is where it ends.
Man, actually, the Valley people in general were really okay with death. I remember the old men in the plane.
Yep.
When they were flying by, and they said, "All right, well, we're going down with the ship," and she had to force them to drop the cargo. They're like, "Well, we going down the ship. Have a good day, everybody." He's like, "Bro, drop the cargo." She had to take her mask off and put herself in danger because they cared more about her than themselves.
Yep.
Hey, yo, stop breathing the poison, please. Put the mask back on, please.
One of them threw a blanket out. I'm like, I'm sure that blanket was not adding to any weight on this. But he was like, "Hey, all of you gotta go.
Everything got to go. We all know." But yeah, I was gonna say that it kind of contrasts with the soldiers, because the soldiers was like that one dude that worked under Queen Kushana or Princess Kushana. He was like, "Hey man," they was like, "What do we do?" And he was like, "We gonna fight it out, nigga. We soldiers." And they was like,
He sure said that.
"Fuck that shit." It's just beat feet. They was getting the fuck out of there.
Man, that was
Back
so
that
funny.
dude upside the head, started running. I'm like, wow, it's like contrasts really well to like the people.
Shout out to the second command dude for the was it Dalmekian military? That dude was hilarious the whole movie, bro. He was hilarious.
Man had one hell of a smirk at one point. I think when maybe like the princess came back, it was like, well, that dream died or whatever he said.
Oh, maybe I'll run shit now. Well, so much for that.
There's that part where he's like
cute to me.
There's that one part where he's like looking at the giant warrior. It's like still like gestating or whatever. And he was like, "Huh, princess is gone, huh? Well, I'm either being set up for a huge win, but it's gonna all be real sad later." And she came back and he was like, "Well, there goes that."
Yeah. I believe that was the scene where he had like the huge smirk on his face. I'm like,
oh yeah,
there goes that.
That character was way funnier than he had any right to be.
I was really waiting on him to be like a traitor or some shit. He had them kind of vibes, but I mean, he just never did. He was like, I want to climb up the ranks, but if I can't, oh well, I just won't climb up the ranks.
He was 10 toes
I just didn't like how he was like the freaking the giant warrior like opened his eyes and he's like, "Are you smiling at me?" My whole thought process the whole time was like, this thing on like I'm thinking this thing is gonna like reappear and it's gonna just wreak havoc, and they're gonna know a way to stop it. And maybe something with the Ohm, the Nausicaa's gonna learn how to control them and defeat the thing. But I'm like, you did all that, open your eyes and come out there and throw 2 mouth beams and die. All right.
He was woken up too soon.
You should just stayed in the ship for that, my guy.
I mean, she forced him to wake up. And then, he tried to use his powers and that shit wasn't going.
I would say, do you see how big I am? You ain't making me do nothing. I'm not for the this last little bit of life I got. I'm gonna do something.
Tired, bro. Let me go back to sleep.
Take me a nap.
I was just like, why did y'all even have? In fact, even the dude, he was like, you probably should have stayed asleep to the end of time because this ain't gonna be nothing but some more mess. And I mean, that's what wound up happening. It's just some more mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this is a great time. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. It's gonna wrap it up. This is gonna wrap it up. If you like this episode, you know what you got to do. Need you to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And I need you to do me a personal favor. Have an excellent week. Peace.